Welcome to the 700 Club Canada, and we are concluding a great week on men's health, building a better man. And to help me with that, I've had a great panel of guests, friends, experts, wonderful dads as well. And it is Father's Day, so early Father's Day celebration to all of you watching. But yeah, we have Justin, Shiraz, Dr. Drew, Coach Drew, I always call you Coach Drew, and myself, Bill. We're so glad that you are here with us today. But today we're going to finish up by talking about emotional health. And I don't know about you guys, but growing up, we didn't talk a lot about emotions as guys. And so what is emotional health even? What is it? What do you think, Shiraz?
Well, I don't know if I spoke about it a lot, but I certainly expressed them a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have this whole range of emotions that I go through probably on a daily basis.
Right.
I think for me, the defining emotional health was beginning to understand how to regulate that range and how extreme I went on each level.
Okay.
I'm still figuring it out, so I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, great. Excellent. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just that ability to recognize and regulate, you know, the emotions that are deep within us and to call them for what they are, acknowledge them, and then navigate how do you use them, either for good, hopefully for good, and if you're using them negatively, how do you, transform and change that to something positive that makes the world a better place?
All right, great. How about you, Coach?
I'm on the same page. Feeling a whole range of emotions, but not allowing those emotions to dictate your life and to control what you do, say, think.
Yeah, for me, I think emotions are simply warning signals. They just tell you that you need to pay attention to something. They're actually a gift. I actually think emotions, even the ones that we don't like I'll be the first to admit, okay, we're safe here, right? I cry at movies. I do, because I'm deeply emotional. But I don't see them as a weakness at all. I see them as actually a gift that helps us understand what we're feeling and why and what to do with it. So what do you think some of the challenges are for men and dealing with their emotions?
Well, like you said, I call them unpleasant versus pleasant. No emotions are good or bad.
Right.
But attached to that is this idea that men don't or shouldn't feel. And the worst part about that is we are primarily emotionally driven, even though we don't label it. Let's just be honest.
Right.
We do what we do, whether you're being protective or whatever, it's because there's a love, there's passion, there's something there. So we're always feeling. But what we haven't been conditioned to do is actually label them. When you actually label the emotion that you're experiencing, your life will start to change. It grounds you. It helps you to understand you. It helps you to normalize your experience. But we're not conditioned or contextualized to actually label them.
How about you, Justin? What do you think some of the challenges for men are when it comes to emotions?
I think 2 words: I'm fine.
Right.
I think that's one of our challenges.
Right.
We bottle it up and we put on a brave face, or we say I'm fine, but deep down, I think a lot of us, we're not okay.
Right.
I think we struggle, and we haven't been modeled very well how to express, hey, I'm feeling this, and to stumble through the awkwardness of, what is it that I'm feeling? I can't even put words to it sometimes,
Right.
but to be willing to do that, I think those are some of the challenges.
How about for you?
For most men, you think when you're processing decisions, it's logic. And it's not the case. Just to echo what you were saying earlier, Coach Drew, we all have this thing in our brain called the amygdala.
Yeah.
Just this fancy word, right? It's about the size of a walnut. And what's really interesting about it is most of your decisions are processed through your amygdala. But what science has shown, that's actually the center of your emotions as well.
Right.
Which means most of the decisions and actions we take and make are processed through the emotional center of your brain. Knowing that now, whether you're male or female, that's just kind of how we're wired, that changes things a little bit. And just to reinforce what you're saying earlier, most of our decisions, how we're about to act, what we're about to say, what we walk away from, what we fight for, what we freeze up, is based on an emotional position.
Yeah, well, and for me, it's actually the cultural confusion. So when I was playing sports, anger, yeah. But then when I'm dealing with my dog, no. Or crying. if your bride's walking down the aisle as a guy, I do weddings now, and it's like, you better cry. Like but you can't cry in another context when it's something. It's so confusing. You're like, which emotions am I allowed to have? And how can I express them appropriately is the challenge. And so we're going to explore that a little bit more today. So we're going to get some personal tips of health from the panel when we return. And so my takeaway from our first part of the conversation is what emotions are appropriate and what emotions are appropriate to be expressed in what context. And so how do you navigate that?
Well, as you all know, I journal all the time. I've been helping people for almost 2 decades with emotions. Labeling them is key. However, once we actually identify the emotion, then we can ferret out the thought that is fueling the emotion. So everyone thinks and feels differently about different situations. So it's really important to understand yourself so you can be true to yourself and authentic to yourself. Emotions are never wrong. They're never out of place. They always fit the context in which you are actually thinking. So as opposed to censoring yourself, it is good to be familiar with yourself and understand what is contributing to those particular emotions that you're feeling.
Okay, so when you say labeling, you mean like, I am angry right now, or I am sad right now. Is that what you mean by labeling?
Well, I wouldn't say I am.
Okay.
I would say I feel.
Okay, good.
Right? And it's an emotion is a single or compound word.
Okay.
Right? So if you start following up, I feel like this isn't going to work. That's not an emotion.
Okay.
Right? I feel discouraged because I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to work. So understanding the mechanics of it helps you to really identify what's going on in your head as well as in your heart that's contributing to this whole thing coming together.
Okay, yeah, so you separate the emotion from the root, because then you can separate the two and then you can deal with the root. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Then you can deal with the thought, yeah.
Amazing. What do you guys think?
So when you make that separation, what's helped me is creating that gap in the middle. So I'm feeling upset. I'm not gonna punch anything, but like I'm feeling, hey, what has helped me is create a gap of time between what I'm feeling and what I'm about to react and how I'm gonna react. I've found the most damage that I've done to the people around me has been when I didn't create a gap between what I'm feeling and what my next action would be.
Okay, so what does that practically look like?
Practically. That the garage door shouldn't have been left open all night. I'm not talking about any of my children right now. I will not make eye contact with the camera because she's gonna know who she was. As soon as I saw the garage door open, what am I gonna do? Go wake her up at 6 a.m.? I'm up a little earlier than everybody else and start yelling because she left the garage door open all night?
Yeah.
That's an example of a gap. Okay, I can't react just because feeling, you have a right to feel, but you don't have a right to respond in a negative way.
That's right.
And that's the difference between being reactive and being responsive or response-able.
I like
there's intention.
Response-able. I like that. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I'll be honest, this is one I'm constantly growing in. I have not mastered this one by any means, but I liked what you said about separating that out because I think we can be reactive. Well, I did that because I'm angry. Well, it's not who you are. You felt anger, but now I can choose to respond. Well, why did I feel anger? And I think that's the thing, is always getting to the root of what's really happening in me. Why did I feel that way? Well, it was because this situation happened and that person was going to get hurt. Well, why was that bad? Well, because I want to protect them. Because I'm a father. Oh, okay. So how can I do that in a way that's productive? So I think it's just getting to the root, constantly going, okay, what's happening? Why did I feel that way? And what's going on? What's the deeper thing inside of me? And then addressing that.
Yeah, that is super helpful because that has been my own journey. I used to really battle anger like a lot. And I always would justify it. Well, you made me feel this way, or you did
Yeah.
this, or the
You made me
circumstance.
angry.
That's right. And what I learned was, no, I was angry because I have deep insecurity. And I never felt like I was good enough. So when anything challenged that, my control mechanism was, oh, I'm going to be angry to control the situation. But once I could parse those two out and go, okay, no, and speak truth to that lie, no, that's not who I am. God says I'm secure, and it doesn't matter what happens around me. It actually began the process of eliminating that out of my life. It's so powerful. Other thoughts or ideas on how to navigate this?
You know, I hear this justification sometimes
Yes.
in a Christian context where, well, Jesus was upset.
Right, flip the tables.
Remember, and then he flipped all the tables.
Yeah.
Right. And if you read it properly in John chapter, whatever chapter it is, I think it's chapter 2, it was premeditated flipping.
Right.
So he walks in,
He's in control.
he looks and surveys, and this is what it says. He went in the corner and made a whip, and then
That's right.
exercised his right to drive out because it's kind of his house.
Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't a response. He surveyed and he evaluated, he checked out the whole scene. All right, I see what's going on in here. All right, what am I going to do next?
Right.
Now, was it with force? Force is different than anger.
Right.
He had to evict with force, but that didn't mean that he was doing it in an angry way.
Right.
You know, it's interesting because what we do with our emotions is always communication. Communication isn't just what you say. It's what you do. It's all those parts and pieces. And one of the most difficult emotions for people, and I think men in particular, to deal with is powerlessness.
Right.
Right? And when we feel powerless, then we take control, and it's usually with anger, the emotion, but the communication is aggressive. Now, a lot of times we think aggression is bad and it's wrong, but it's not, to your point. There's a whole range of emotions and communication that we could do. We could be passive. There are times when being passive is good. Jesus escaped out of their midst, right? He didn't allow them to take him because his time wasn't yet. That was a very passive act. Was it an act of cowardice? No, it wasn't. There's choice, there's intention. So we want to be able to choose along that spectrum from passive to aggressive. Ideally, we want to live in this place where we're assertive, we're clear, we're really being responsible, we're being intentional. But to say that any emotion is bad or wrong, or to say that it's wrong to be aggressive, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's appropriate. When you're in a dark alley with somebody and you're going to protect your family, that's probably the time you're going to let some aggression show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the key is be responsible. Well, obviously, we've touched on something really important, and we'll be right back.
In whatever circumstance you face, God wants you to have victory.
It's not too late. Believe that God wants to do a miracle in your life.
And if you need to talk with someone who understands,
All you have to do is call us at 1-855-759-0700.
a prayer partner is waiting to listen and pray with you today.
I want to personally thank you for inviting us into your space, wherever that is right now. And I also want to invite you into partnership with us so that we can continue to create programming and stories that help people experience the power of God in their lives. And I want to invite you to call us today at 1-855-759-0700. And when you partner with us today, you'll get this amazing CD entitled The Shepherd King, and it comes with a 10-day devotional as well. Take a look at this.
From the hills of Bethlehem, a boy of courage becomes Israel's most famous king. A man of war and valor, of scandal and tragedy, of music and faith, of destiny and vision, but above all, a man after God's own heart. Discover spiritual insights from the incredible life of King David in Pat Robertson's latest audiobook, The Shepherd King. Plus, receive a 10-day companion devotional. Available now.
Well, it's almost Father's Day, and to all the fathers out there, I want to honor you on this special occasion. But you know, Father's Day is a day that is meant to honor our dads, and yet it can still be really difficult for many people for a lot of different reasons. For some, Father's Day can serve as a painful reminder of the absent or strained relationship with their own earthly fathers. Or Father's Day may evoke feelings of guilt, regret, or inadequacy as we struggle with the role of being a father ourselves, maybe either due to our own personal insecurities or some past trauma or other circumstance. And Father's Day, like any other celebratory occasion, can create expectations of the perfect, right, or idyllic father-child relationship. And when those expectations aren't met, individuals may feel disappointed or saddened. So, what do you do if your relationship with your earthly father is not what it should be, or when you are struggling as a father yourself? Well, here's what I've learned. The first thing I have to do is bring my pain and my insecurity to the perfect Father. Psalm 68 verses 5 and 6 reminds us that God is a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, and that He sets the lonely in families. So be reminded today that you have not been abandoned or forgotten, regardless of what has happened to you. God has adopted you. Second, ask God to lead you as you lead your family. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So make every decision out of a desire to honor God, and He promises that He will make your paths straight. Ultimately, the Bible encourages honoring and respecting our parents, and we want to do that this weekend. But we also need to seek reconciliation in those strained relationships and extend forgiveness even when it's really hard, and grace to others. So on this Father's Day, may God give you courage and wisdom and faith as you navigate the complex family dynamics you have been given. And that is a stepping stone to becoming who God has created you to be.
Brett Swain was one of those people we see nearly every day on our city streets. Unemployed, homeless, and alone. He grew up in Perth, Australia, and was 5 when his father abandoned the family. His father stumbled back home one night after drinking and was met by his wife's new boyfriend.
There was a scuffle that occurred, and he was intoxicated, and he was pinned down by this other man. And I remember just looking at my dad and feeling hurt that my dad was defeated. No one is supposed to be able to defeat your dad. If the guy who was my dad was so easily beaten, then who's gonna be there?
The boyfriend was abusive to Brett and his sister, and he eventually left too. Brett got a job to support the family, but it never felt like enough.
This pervading, gnawing sense that something is wrong, and you are wrong, you're bad, and everything that happens around you is bad.
When Brett was 16, his mother gave him a keyboard, and music became his escape.
And I felt this whoosh on the inside of me, this level of excitement, this breathlessness that I can remember putting it akin to being on a roller coaster, just that rush that happened. And if it makes you feel this way, then if I can just bottle that feeling and then give it to other people, I'll have some worth.
He taught himself to play several instruments and formed a band. In 1991, he moved to the United States, hoping for his big break.
Fame and fortune meant to me, it wasn't about the drugs or the alcohol. It wasn't that. It meant that I would finally have a platform to be accepted, that I would be in a place where people would love me and I would feel okay about myself if people loved me.
Brett joined a cover band and found some success. He got married, but the relationship was unstable, and after years of constant fighting, Brett had an affair.
And I was driving back thinking, what have you done? You wanted to hurt me as a kid. All you had to say was, you're just like your father. And I just realized I had become the monster that I never wanted to be.
When Brett's wife discovered the affair, she made him quit music and sell his instruments. She even destroyed his original music.
And I thought I deserved it. It was a dreadful, out-of-control feeling. Dreadful. And it was in the middle of that dreadful, out-of-control feeling that I woke up one day with this sense of, get to the Bible. I didn't know we had a Bible. I'd never read a Bible. I'd like to say it was such a safe place of comfort. It was not a safe place for me because it was dealing with who I was. I spent 7 months on my face weeping for this book, begging for forgiveness, begging for healing.
Then one morning, Brett received the answer he had been longing for.
That morning, I was standing in a basketball court, the gym where I spent so many mornings praying, 7 months praying, crying out. And I was looking up at the ceiling and I said, what else do you want from me? There's nothing left. And all of a sudden, fire came upon me. It had the sensation of fire, but it didn't hurt. And I'm feeling something happening on the inside. I'm feeling life enter. And I was so filled with fire to find out that he was real, that I wanted to run everywhere I could and bang on every door and tell them that he is risen, he's alive, he's real, he's real, he's real.
He surrendered his life to Christ and was filled with the Spirit. He believed God wanted him to move to Nashville, and he boarded a Greyhound bus the same day his wife served him divorce papers.
I spent the night in the Greyhound, and the Bible became my blanket, my pillow. In the morning, I meet a homeless guy. He says, there's a mission just around the corner. I go around the corner. I was so jazzed. And I walk through the front door, and I see the hopelessness, and I see everything that you think about homelessness. And I thought, what are you doing, God? I'm going to die here.
Brett was homeless for 4 months until he met Chef Thomas Oglesby, who was serving meals at the Nashville Mission. The chef told Brett about a job opening at his restaurant, Fleming's.
When I came in that next day, I saw him in the kitchen, and it surprised me because I didn't think he was going to show, which he did. And after that, he asked me a lot of questions, and I gave him a lot of answers about the kitchen, and just took it off from there.
Within a few months, from entry-level cook and day cleaner, they offered me the keys to the restaurant. A little while later, they're starting to fly me to different parts of the country to train up opening crews for brand new Fleming stores. And eventually, I became second chef in charge of the Nashville store.
He worked at Fleming's for 8 years. In 2014, he opened his own restaurant, The Cookery. He employs as many men from the mission as he can and trains and certifies them as cooks.
It wasn't just about taking care of people's needs anymore. It had to do with restoring hope and giving them a sense of dignity through their own gifts. And hope restored is a very awesome thing.
Brett married Merari in 2011, and together they run the restaurant and 2 discipleship homes. They also feed the homeless of Nashville every Saturday. But the greatest gift he offers is the hope he's found in Jesus Christ.
I was taken from darkness to light into someone who doesn't know how dark it can get. It's hard to say, but to someone who is experiencing something like this, the word safe glows golden. And he is real. He is hope. He is life. He is forgiveness. He's restoration. And he is everything he says he is.
You know, what I've really appreciated about this week is actually summarized in that word. He used often, hope. That yes, we as men do struggle. We have battles, whether it's on the physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, emotional front. And there's lots of reasons for that we've explored. But at the end of the day, we are anchored in the hope that we have, that no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, there is a God who can make all things new. And I hope that's been really crystal clear for all of you watching today. But as we've gone through this week, what are some of your takeaways? What are you going to walk away from this week with? Just fire away.
Everybody's different, and everybody's journey is different. Yet it's those differences that we get to be truthful and honest and authentic about with God and with each other. And for me, that's a sign of strength. And I really appreciated hearing all of our conversations and all the testimonies that we watched. That was a running theme. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. God will meet you there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so I guess for me, two main takeaways. One would be thank you. Thank you for allowing us to participate in the process of a prosperous, healthy position for men. Because a theme that emerged this week, we don't have to do it alone.
Right.
And so thank you. The four of us have all week, we got to hang out and talk through these concepts and the 5 things that we were able to go. So thank you for that opportunity. But you don't have to be alone either. You have that same opportunity to partner with people who are close to you right now. Take advantage of that. And if it starts by calling the number that's available to you for prayer, take advantage of it.
Awesome. How about you, Justin?
Yeah. For me, the phrase that kept ringing out for me was, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Actually, that's the best place to start. Just to acknowledge, I'm not okay. And that's actually, I think, the breeding ground for God to do his finest work.
Right.
You know, just to acknowledge, God, I'm not okay. And I need you to do something in my life. And what's cool is, with God, you never have to stay there. I think sometimes we're tempted to want to stay there or label that's who I am now for the rest of my life. It's not who you are. That God actually has some more for you. He wants to continue to restore, continue to heal you, continue to form you into exactly who he's made you to be. So don't let that thing define you. It's okay not to be okay, but don't stay there. God's got something great for you.
Yeah, and for me, the takeaway, and again, I'm so appreciative of this time we've had, is stewardship. That everything you have, even your difficult situations or circumstances or what you perceive as limitations, is a gift that if you put into the hands of God, he can do something amazing with your life. He wants to do something amazing with your life. And so as we look forward to Father's Day, to all you fathers, just know that God has strategically positioned you where you are to make a difference, but it has to happen when you trust him fully. And for those who maybe are struggling today, men, know that you're not alone. I love that God's equipped you uniquely and powerfully, and he's with you. You're not alone. I love our power verse for today. It's found in 2 Timothy 1:7, where it says, "For the Spirit God gave us, and he gave each of us his Spirit, does not make us timid, but gives us power and love and self-discipline." And so go in the courage and strength of God Almighty, that he put you on this planet and he wants to equip you to be an overcomer, to be victorious in front of whatever situation you're in or despite whatever situation you've gone through. You can do this with God's help. He's fighting for you. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
To contact us, visit 700club.ca.